So first off, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a holiday here in the UK, so I've had the chance to get out and about with my daughter Cassie. She lives with me, so we've had a really good day because it's a holiday. She doesn't have to go to college today, so
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's been great.
Oh, great. I wanted to talk to you about your new book, Through the Shattered Glass, obviously. But first, I wanted to ask you, how did you get your start in pro wrestling?
Probably what nobody actually knows, and I did put this in my book. Um, by chance, a fluke, I went to a wrestling show with a friend of mine when I was 19, and I met Chris Adams. He hadn't been wrestling that long himself. And it wasn't very long after that he asked me to be his valet when I was 19. So I actually toured the halls of the UK. It was a company called Joint Promotions, and I don't know if many people in the US can go back that far as late 70s. The people like Big Daddy, Giant Haystacks, Marty Jones. There was Mark Rollerball Rocco. So I travelled the halls with Tom Billington and Davy Boy, and we were all about 19. So I actually started in England. Most people don't know that, but I actually toured this country for quite a couple of years before Chris and I came to the States together in 81. Because he met a guy called Yasu Fuji, and he had a martial arts background, same as Chris, because Chris was a judo guy. And Jean LaBelle, I believe, Mike LaBelle, Jean LaBelle, they ran a promotion out of Los Angeles at the Olympic Auditorium. And because they were judo guys, they kind of gave Chris a bit of a chance to work in Los Angeles. And so we came to the States in 81, but I actually started when I was 19 in England as Chris's valet back then. So
Oh,
that
wow.
was the start I had.
Wow. I think a lot of people think that you started with World Class
No,
Championship
I
Wrestling, so it
know.
was way
And I
before that.
I put in my book all the stories of the English promotion. As you know, they called it, I say valet, but actually you're called a second at that time in England because they had the boxing rules, where they have the submission and 3 rounds. And
Hmm.
so technically it wasn't a valet, it was called a second. And because they have a whole different style of working over here back then. But yeah, that was when I met Chris, and yeah, most people think it was world class, but Chris and I split up, but we came back together for world class as friends, not romantically.
Right. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
pretty
cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
And so when you moved to the U.S., were you looking to further your wrestling career?
No, no, not at all. Actually, when Chris and I landed in Los Angeles, we were like ecstatic because here we are from England, and here the difference, we had the beach, and we're 19, I'm 19, he's 24, and we're just like, wow. Trouble is he only had one show on a Friday for $40, and the money that we saved up actually dwindled. So we slept on the beach a few nights with a bag of monkey nuts. We took showers on the beach, but I didn't have a green card. And I saw these ads for models, and I managed to sort of get cash in hand doing quite a bit of modeling back then, and another job that I got on Santa Monica Pier that enabled us to actually stay in the States because I don't think we could have afforded, because we didn't have a car, and we had to stay in a hotel that a lot of the boys stayed in. I think Tom Pritchard was there when we were there. But on $40 a week, obviously we would have had to come home. But it was a good thing that I got those modelling jobs. And then Chris obviously went to Mexico and up to Portland.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we struggled really bad. But I think because you're so young, and you're like, wow, we're in LA. You don't think anything of sleeping on the beach
Right, right.
at that age.
So when you were asked to go to World Class and do the storyline with Chris, were you hesitant at all with doing that, or not really?
Well, I don't know if you know the story, but Chris and I actually split up,
Hmm.
and I write about that in the book, why we split up in quite detail. And there were some unique circumstances, and I actually married Billy Jack Haynes. And what happened after a while is Chris went to World Class. I went to England for 6 months, and Billy went to work in Florida. But Chris and I had a daughter, Jade, so we stayed fairly amicable actually. And Chris actually had this idea. He phoned me when I was living in Florida, and he said, I got this wrestler. It was Gino Hernandez,
Hmm.
and I want to do this ex-wife angle, which I think was a little bit of a take of the. He had one with, I think it was Jimmy Garvin and Precious and Sunshine that they ran in World Class, and that was really good. And I think Chris, being this was a bit of reality, being the ex. Actually, we were never married, Chris and I. That was we had lived together 5 years, but
Hmm.
there was the idea to bring his wife Tony and to create the girls. But Gino was the one he wanted to do it with. At that time, I was still pretty much in Florida. When I did come to Dallas eventually, because Chris had helped me get an apartment there, um, that was about the time when they had the Cotton Bowl match, the hair match. Unfortunately, Gino died like 3 months after that, and I carried on. Well, I had my own business in Dallas, and then one day out the blue, Chris phoned me up, and we were good friends. I mean, Chris and I remained friends right up until he died. But he goes, he says, I got this student. His name's Steve Williams, and I think this guy might have potential, and I really want to try this ex-wife angle. So Chris phoned me up, and Steve had just started, I think, about '89, and then we'd worked together doing that angle. It was Chris's idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was very very memorable angle. It's from World Class to WCW, you had quite the impact in a short amount of time.
Well, yeah, I wasn't really on air for very long. I mean, um, Steve and I were quite good friends when we were doing the angle, and then he went off to Nashville, and we did a few spot shows, and then obviously we started dating, and it was kind of a fluke again that I just took a call from Magnum for Steve at my house. And I think they'd hired a girl, Veronica, but I didn't see her work or I didn't know her. So I was, not sure. They asked me to go see Dusty in Houston. And then Steve and I obviously were dating, so it was handy for us to be together at that time. And I sold my business and moved to Atlanta with him. It was good.
Yeah, and Dusty was the one that came up with the name Lady
You
Blossom.
did, yeah. I hate it to this day.
Oh, you did? Oh, you did?
Oh yeah, I just wish I'd had something else planned. I just found that I said to Steve, "Oh, hate that name." He said, "Yeah, I don't like it either." Dusty, said, "No, that's what it's going to be." So
um, so when you were with Steve in WCW, you were also very actively involved, in the action and like in the matches and interfering and things like that. Did you ever suffer any injuries or anything during that time?
I was taking. They did have me taking bumps in WCW, but I actually got more injuries in World Class. I got two bad injuries. One, Steve came off the top rope on a spot show and actually came down on me and I couldn't walk for about 6 weeks. And another time, Chris told me to pick up the bell ringer, which is like an iron bar, and he showed me how to hit it. But as I moved my hand, it broke my bone in my hand, so
Oh, jeez.
I got more there. But no, I didn't actually get any injuries in WCW, even though I was taking bumps. I was lucky, I guess, because I didn't know how to work. I just did what I said.
I know you were there for a short period of time, and then you became pregnant, right, with your second daughter.
Yes.
How would you describe your time with WCW, even though it was short? Was it a memorable run?
You know what? I mean, I think that my time in world class, I could say, was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we all kind of went over, and when the guy was like, wrap it up, and there wasn't, Jerry Jarrett was there. We didn't really have as much, just behind the scenes politics or whatever, but I would say it was obviously much more professional up there, and I was ecstatic to be there. But I wouldn't say it was quite as much fun
Yeah.
as I had that with Percy and all the guys in world class. But very honoured to have had a chance to be there.
Yeah. Did you ever want to go back after you had your second daughter, or were you satisfied with being done?
Well, a lot of what I write in my book, I had a pretty tough childhood. Um, I won't go into all the details, but I was put into a sort of a home as a very young age, and my father had died, and I never really had a family. And even when Chris and I came to the States, we were sort of on the move, Mexico, Portland, then I was off to Florida. So after I had my second child, Steve and I, we actively looked for houses, and it was a beautiful log home that we bought. And to me, it was just real great, awesome, because, I was like getting something that I had longed for in my life, which was, a proper family life. And we had two daughters. And so, no, I think what I wanted then was just to be happily married and a good mom, to my two daughters at the time. Then, of course, I had the third. And that to me was what I'd always longed for. So going back on the road would have not been good as a mum of, two or three children. So
Right.
I was fine with Steve, was working. He was doing great. And this is before he became Stone Cold. So,
Yeah.
and when he was working in Atlanta, he was home a lot more because, they had the center stage tapings and we lived just outside. And we did so much fun stuff, with the kids and really cool stuff. So I was like absolutely ecstatically happy with Steve in Atlanta, to the point where that was what I wanted to do, is to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of the home. And I was enjoying decorating, and it was something that I found was some of the best years of my life, actually. So I was really happy there.
Yeah. And I know you're probably sick of telling this story, but one of the famous stories is you coming up with the name Stone Cold, and I know you write about this in your book. But yeah, how did that happen?
Do you know, we were just sitting on the couch and just flicking through channels. It was very much, again, another fluke, if you want, because this show came on, and I forget his name, who is the Iceman, and this show came on, and we just started watching the show, and Steve's like, oh, that's the kind of character that I want to be. This guy was I don't know, he's a hitman or something, but he used to put people in the fridge or something.
Yeah, the ice dagger.
Freeze. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he did tell the office at WWE, what that, and they did fax these names like Ice Dagger, Fang McFrost. I can remember Brian Pillman and Steve, and he had him on speakerphone, and I can remember absolute hysterics over these names, and but Steve just couldn't get it, and again, I'm from England, so I do drink hot tea, and I remember he was sitting on the end of the bed, and I just he was very pensive, looking down at the floor, and I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. You'll come up with something, but drink your tea before it gets stone cold." And then I went, "Oh my God, there it is. That's your name." And he just like had this big smile, and that's exactly how it happened.
Yeah,
Just just one of those things you say,
it's crazy. It's hard to imagine anything else now.
Yeah.
And with your book, when did you decide that? Because you talk a lot about addictions and things like that. When did you decide that this was something you wanted to kind of speak about and your personal experiences?
I think it's important to speak about it, but for years it was something I hid. I was very secretive about. My addictions started during my marriage to Steve, but after we left, when we moved back to Texas. And I think most addicts they do progress. Mine, Ambien, Valium, Vicodin, GHB, all became sort of quite out of control. And I write in my book some really scary stuff. I actually had to be resuscitated. I was in hospital several times.
Jeez.
It's some really deep stuff regarding that in the book, and the failure of my marriage, and just years of being an addict, and an addict will want to stop, but they can't. I think if you asked an addict if they could stop, they'd be the first person to say they would like that. But you got to understand too, because I had several seizures, and there were a few times I wrote in the book I actually would take the pills and I would throw them down the toilet. And then you'd get the drug psychosis, the withdrawals, which actually ends up putting you back in hospital because it doesn't work. You just can't stop. And then as your tolerance grows, you become more and more secretive, and then you start lying to people. And it just life it's just so torture, and it's hell. And if you try and stop, you have so bad withdrawals that doesn't work. In the end, my daughter actually called a rehab after I progressed to harder drugs, and then I actually went into rehab for 6 months. I was in rehab. The first 3 months was hell while I was detoxing, and then I was getting counselling, and I think coming out of rehab is quite a big of a readjustment. You look at the consequences that the things that you've done, and all the consequences. My house was a mess. I hadn't paid my bills. You don't realize just how deep this addiction can take you, and so when I was clean, and I've been clean 3 years, and I came out. And so what I decided to do is to write a book. It was very therapeutic to even write about my lack of responsibility with my daughters. I'm very honest about that, and I want to make amends with my daughters about certain things. I loved them so much, but an addict is an addict, and there's a lot of ways that you have to just be honest. I think holding your hands up and saying, "I was an addict. I did this wrong. I did that wrong," and I think that's part of the healing. And I don't say anything about wrestling as being in any way, because I know WWE have got a hell of a wellness program now, and I think though that I was a victim in a way, and I'm so lucky to be alive. I mean, I probably died almost died about 3 times.
Jeez.
And you know, so I write all about that, and so it's really therapeutic to, and I feel really blessed actually that I can write a book, and hopefully people can find it a bit inspirational because it does tell you, you know, about what happens when you do start taking these pills, and how difficult it is, and I'm just sad, you know. You know, Tony Adams was a great friend of mine. I was so sad when she died, and I just see myself as being one of the ones that I'm so lucky to be able to write a book about, you know, my experiences, and hopefully someone might even learn something from how an addict is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just been really good, and I talk about how, you know, my whole life within the industry was, and there's a lot of cool stuff behind the scenes too on angles, and you know, I was around WWE when I was with Steve. I didn't work for them, but I was very much there when he, you know, start coming. I just got some cool stories. It's not all doom and gloom about addiction, but it's very sad about addiction, and I think it's something I'm extremely proud of this book. I think it's one of the best things I ever did. So I'm really excited for people to hopefully read it.
Yeah. And did you talk with Steve at all about the book, or?
Steve knows about the book, but I haven't spoke to him personally about the book. Um, but I think he knows about the book.
Okay.
It's an autobiography,
Yeah.
so
And it's
he's a big part of my life. He's the father of my 3 children because he adopted my daughter Jade. So he's the father of my 3 children, and there are, you know, the effects of what happened in our marriage and my addiction are in the book. But the book isn't designed to hurt anybody, but it's an honest account of my life, you know. So if I left that out, it would be kind of not really showing you why and how I became an addict.
right. And I
So
think it's also very timely right now. I mean, in not just in wrestling, but entertainment. You had Prince who passed away last week, who,
yeah, in
you know,
China,
in
so
China,
yeah,
and I was,
the same drugs that killed her. But I have a story in my book. I actually was at my house. This is after my divorce, and I had a nanny, and my 2 daughters were there. They were very young, Stephanie and Cassie, and nobody could wake me up. And ambulance was called, and 3 firemen actually showed up on the scene, and I didn't really have a pulse. You know, I was just about dead,
geez.
and it was the same drugs, Ambien and Xanax, that I took that the China died on. The same drugs, you know. And I can tell you what, you know, those are so addictive. You get withdrawals like as soon as you wake up in the morning. You can't really get off of it without professional help. I mean, I know what it's like to be on those pills. And it's really difficult. But yeah, it's so sad about so many people like, you know, Tony, China, and quite a few women in the industry that have died.
Yeah, it seems like prescription drugs are becoming more and more dangerous. Then you hear the big arguments in the U.S. about marijuana and legalization of marijuana, but all these, you know, celebrities and people in entertainment, it always seems like it's problems with prescription pills that are.
Yeah, and you know the thing is that, you know, if you've got the money, you can just get them anyway. I mean, as an addict, I was very manipulative in what sourcing my pills because you just can't cope with the withdrawals, and so it's so easy to just not so easy in the UK because it's socialized medicine, but you still find a way. But out there, you could go to about 5 doctors, and then there's always doctors that, you know, you give them the money, they give you the pills, and it's
Yeah.
uh, and a lot of the prescriptions when I was in rehab, something like Valium or Ambien are actually take longer to detox from than heroin, you know.
Yeah.
So
And when you were able to, when you made the decision to come to get clean, uh,
yeah.
did you face many setbacks, or were you able to kind of stay on that path?
No, I was fine. The thing is that I became for the 2 years prior to I went to rehab. I was really seriously getting in trouble. Went to jail.
Yeah.
See, I'm very, very honest in my book. I have no secrets anymore, and it's a beautiful feeling to talk about it. I went to jail because of drug addiction, hospital several times. Nothing could make me stop. But then what? I think you got to hit rock bottom, and I had started to use harder drugs, and I literally opened the door and I said to my daughters, and I did not want to hurt them, but I said to them, "I'm a drug addict. I need help," and that was the beginning of getting better because a drug addict like myself would tend to, oh no, I really don't have a problem. Oh, it's okay. And then, but you're taking more and more to, um, that's the way it is because your tolerance, and so you start using more and more and stronger meds. And then there's really only three solutions to it, and that's either you end up in mental hospital or rehab, or you go to jail or prison, or you die, and there's really no other solution. So when I held my hands up and I told my daughters, it hurt me to do that, but it was, I'm a drug addict, I need help. And then when I did that, there was a lot of tears and everything, but that they picked the phone up then to the next day I was picked up to go into rehab, and I've never touched a pill or drug since in 3 years now. It took me over a year to write the book as well. It's not easy. It's quite hard writing a book.
Right, right.
I mean, I can't believe how difficult it is.
Well, I
But
mean,
yeah, yes, but it's great. I mean, I'm very, very proud of my book, and it's not, it's a shoot, all the way shoot. My book, I have anything in my book is not anything that isn't a complete shoot, and that includes my own mistakes as well. And I said to my ghostwriter, who his name's Bradley Craig, he would question me and challenge me and challenge me, and he'd go, "Oh, you're not really, I don't really understand how that flows to that." And I go, "Oh, I don't really want to talk about that." And he's, "Oh no, you got to be brave." And then in the end, he got out everything out of me, but I did feel a lot better afterwards. And and anything that I'm saying, Steve knows, and Stephanie and Cassie know, and so I don't have. I've already, told
mhm.
everybody, my story, and to, I'm just a person that did survive the odds of a terrible addiction, and I am here to tell the story and write the book. So I think it could be quite hopeful. Kevin Von Erich wrote me a 5-page forward,
Well,
and a lot of people in the industry have supported me. The honesty is really good for you to because as an addict you have so many secrets, and you start. There'll be little things like, "Oh, I've just got to pop out because I've run out of milk," or "Oh, I must go here and there." And deep down, you're just going to get more supplies. So all that, is gone, and it just feels so good to be really honest about it. So I'm really glad about that.
yeah, and congratulations on being 3 years clean. I think it's a very important story to bring out. So, congratulations on the book. How can
Thank you so much.
welcome, man? How can fans get it?
Well, it's out on Amazon
Hmm.
on Wednesday, which is in 2 days, May 5th. So that's probably the best way to get it. I mean, I have been having a few people want signed copies, and I have taken quite a few orders to an email through the Shattered Glass. And if they email me that, then I'll write them back and tell them I'll sign it if they want it signed. But other than that, it's out on Amazon on May the 4th.